Good morning, people. Good morning, good afternoon. I hope everyone is having an amazing or let's say not so bad a week. So, I'd like to first of all welcome you to the first LeadSquared webinar of the fall. Now, coming to what you folks are already here for today, let me set the tone straight for our today's topic, right? Okay, so before we talk about how this webinar is related with career skills, let me just give you a brief info or probably set an analogy here. So let's say when you're a part of a fitness or a weight loss program, you attend weekly weigh-ins to monitor your progress, right? And keep yourself accountable. Similarly, when you're driving, you need to know where you're right now in order to safely get home. I mean, if you don't know where you are right now, you cannot drive into the right direction, right? Exactly in the same way, an admissions director's job is to get families to enroll at your schools, not just one single person, but the whole family as and when you go, right? So while you're hopefully employing multiple strategies to make that happen and probably investing like tons of dollars into those strategies, you want to know which strategies are working to help you achieve your objective, right? And probably which in that process is your weakest or the strongest link, right? And probably without that info, we're almost on a course to crashing into a pole, right? I mean, if you don't know your way forward, you'll probably just crash into it, right? So today, to help you with the right driving track, let me introduce you to our guest speaker for the day, Jenn Lyles. Jenn has been an award-winning lead generation consultant while her time as marketing director at Bellews Beauty Academy. I guess a lot of you guys would be familiar with that name. And ever since then, she has been actively involved in consulting the schools and different beauty schools and career schools in helping them out with the correct right inquiry to enrollment conversion process, right? So I'll ask Jenn to take over from here and show what she has for us today. Jenn, over to you.
Thanks. Welcome, everyone. I really want to thank you for that intro. And just to kind of give you guys a little bit about my background, I got into career schools around 2011. I started working for AACS, which some of you know is the American Association of Cosmetology Schools. And then in 2014, I started working for Bellews Academy. They are a beauty school based out of San Diego. And so my first year as marketing director, I saw giant success. We tried new things. We came up with innovative campaigns. We went after new demographics, and we were able to increase our lead flow by 34% in 1 year. And that led to a 33% increase in enrollments. So over the past 2 years, I've been consulting on the side, and then in July, I made the decision to just focus on consulting. And my goal is to help career schools with their marketing and admission strategies. And I really have one goal when I work with any client, and that's to increase population. I love all things marketing. I love witty campaigns, millennial-focused ads. But I really wanted to start today with you guys where I start with pretty much every client I work with, and that's reports. And if I can make numbers look fun and interesting, then I will have done my job. I'm, full disclosure, not a report person, but there's some, I think, need to know exciting things that I'm going to share with you guys today. I also have up here my phone number. Feel free to text me, call me. If you guys have questions after, just want to, connect. And I post daily on LinkedIn tips for school owners, admissions, and marketing reps. So definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. Okay, so before I get into today's webinar, I do not want to insult anyone's intelligence. I know we have a lot of really smart, savvy people on this webinar, but I don't want to use verbiage that's over anyone's head. So let me just quickly define a couple acronyms and phrases that I'll be using today that's pretty common in this space. So the first one is ROI, which is your return on investment. So if you spent $100 on Facebook ads and you got 20 leads from that, that's a fantastic ROI. Which leads me to the CPL, which is your cost per lead. As in, let's go ahead and use that same example. I spent $100 on Facebook ads and I got 20 leads. So your cost per lead is $5. And honestly, that's not really realistic. If your cost per lead on Facebook is $5, give your marketing director a raise. That's generally it's probably going to be a lot higher than that. My third definition I'm going to share with you guys is PPC. This is pay per click. So if you guys have any sort of PPC strategy at your business or school, you're likely bidding on search engine keywords. So I live in Nashville, and if I typed in to Google trucking school Nashville, I'm going to get a whole bunch of search results. But above that, I'm going to get ads. And I know they're ads because it says the word ad next to it. And so based on someone's budget, like a trucking school in Nashville and several other factors, their ad is going to show up to me. And if I click on that, they're going to be charged for that click. Hence PPC, pay per click. The fourth term I'm going to use a lot is year over year. This is a way to compare data from a particular time frame. So you guys can absolutely compare your lead flow from August to July, but a truer measure of your progress, I love looking at year over year. So I would rather look at July 2018 compared to July 2017. You're going to notice in your industry, time of year plays a lot into the trends with your enrollment and your search. So I think YOY is so important for your marketing budget, and I'm going to touch on that here in the webinar. And then lastly is landing pages. I could probably do a whole separate webinar on landing pages, and if you have questions about this later, call me. I'd be happy to give you just, some advice and information in this space. But generally, like we just talked about pay per click, if you click on a Google ad, a Facebook ad, any kind of ad that's related to your school, it should be going to something called a landing page. It should not be going to your home page on your website. And if it does go to the home page on your website, your cost per lead is probably a lot higher than it could be. So landing pages are generally a pretty basic page. It has a lead form on there, and it has information about your school, maybe a testimonial. The point of a landing page is to get conversions. You want people to fill out a form. You don't want them going all over your website and getting all the answers for themselves. Okay, so why even pull reports? I don't love numbers. I said that at the beginning. It's like not my thing at all. I actually used to dread pulling reports when I worked for the school I was working at. And then because I'm a millennial narcissist, I realized, wow, reports actually benefit me. So I'm going to give you guys 3 reasons why you should be pulling reports if you're not. Number 1 is they evaluate your performance. They actually make you look good. So if you're in admissions or you're in marketing and you want to prove to your boss, I'm actually doing a great job this year, compare your year over year data. It's going to show the performance of your school. If you're an owner and you don't have the enrollments you used to, pull a report. It's going to evaluate if your leads are going up, if your leads are going down. There's a lot of factors that go into why your school is performing well, but a report will show you. Secondly, it's going to tell you where to distribute your marketing budget. So I was a marketing director, and it told me exactly where to spend my money. So if it's performing well in one area, put a little more money in there. And so that's another reason why I love to pull reports. It's going to help you with your budget. And then thirdly, it's going to tell you where the holes in your recruiting process are. So I'm just going to quickly give you guys an example of this. I was working with a school, and they did not change their PPC verbiage. They did not change their budget or their demographics or anything like that. But their cost per lead was going way up, and their conversions were dropping. So I was able to sit down and look with them at a bunch of reports and realized when this was happening. And it was happening of like November of 2017. And the only thing that they changed in November of 2017 was their landing pages. And we were able to figure out from a report that the landing pages were converting at a 12%, and now they had dropped to an 8%. So it wasn't an issue anywhere else except for their landing pages. And as soon as they switched their landing pages, boom, their conversions went back up. So guys, reports tell a story. They're going to paint pictures for directors and owners as to what's going on in their schools. Just don't pull a report for the sake of pulling a report and then stuff them into a folder on your desktop. You need to analyze them, and you need to be looking for the right things. So I've worked with clients all over the country. Some people pull reports, some people don't. I have collected for you guys today my recommended reports that you need to be pulling weekly, monthly, and quarterly. And of course, there's dozens of other reports you could be pulling that are important for you, but I just kind of wanted to simplify this and give you a place to start. So the first question I get when I talk to owners about pulling reports is, where do I pull a report? And so the answer is, it honestly depends. The complexity of the report pulling is going to vary depending on what CRM you use. So simply speaking, a CRM is a database that holds your leads and your contacts. There are several CRMs out there on the market. LeadSquared happens to be one of them. They're our host for today, so of course I have to give them a shout out. Personally, I've seen a lot of CRMs. I love LeadSquared. They have a great platform for multiple reasons. But whatever CRM you are using, you guys should be able to pull similar reports. And there are things you could be tracking within your school that maybe you're not. And so maybe this will inspire you to do that today. So let's go ahead and jump into the meat of this webinar. Well, we are going to be looking at weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually. I put those together because if I tell you to pull something quarterly, you also should be doing that annually. Reports to pull after a class start, and then reports to look at by admissions reps. Reminders, there are tons of other reports you can be pulling and looking at. This is just probably my favorite that will help tell a story about your school. So if you guys have questions, be sure to type them in. And then when we get to the end of this webinar, I'd be happy to answer them. And at the very end, I'll put up my phone number again if you want to call and, talk about what's going on in your school. I'd be happy to discuss that with you. Okay, weekly. This is going to be quick. There's only 2 reports I like to look at every single week. The first one is the number of leads by program year over year. So there's several reasons for this, but the first thing is you need to know the trends of your program. You need to know how many people are searching a program this year versus last year versus the year before. Some schools are kind of maybe thinking, maybe I need to get rid of this program. It's kind of weak in my school. Lots of people used to be searching for it. So this right here is the basic, like every week when you get in on Monday mornings, pull this report and see how many people, how many new leads came in from the previous week and compare that exact same week to the past 2 years. It's also going to let you know kind of where you need to be spending your money. So if you really need cosmetology leads and you're getting a bunch of aesthetics leads, you can quickly call the person who manages your PPC and say, hey, let's bid on some more Cosmo keywords. I need some more leads in this area. Of course, you want to compare them over all of your campuses. And then, like I just mentioned, this is a report you should be pulling every single Monday morning. Send it out to everyone on your team. Remind your admissions reps what came in last week versus the past couple years so that they can see it for themselves. And this is just sort of good overall for owners to see what's going on in their schools. What are people interested in and what came in the previous week? And then the second report I like to pull every single Monday is the media. So knowing where your leads came from is just as important as knowing what program they came in for multiple reasons. But when I do trainings with schools, I teach them that the talk track changes based on how they came in. So if you're Googling something, oh my goodness, you might not know anything about this industry. You're at the very beginning of your Google search. You might be in school. You might have 3 kids and you can't get out of the house. Like there could be several factors to your life if you came in through a Google ad versus a referral who tends to convert a lot quicker. So this is why it's so important for me when I work with admissions reps is you need to know where your media sources are for your leads. And then, of course, for your spend, you need to see what's working in your budget. If you're not getting any PPC ads one week, but you know you're spending money in there, maybe something accidentally got turned off. Maybe all of a sudden your Facebook budget's out and you totally forgot to renew it. So for budget purposes, you have to know where your leads are coming from. Okay, that was quick. On to monthly. How many do I have here? I think about 5 different reports I like to pull on a monthly basis. The first one is your number of leads year over year. I talked about this at the very beginning. I like to compare every month's end to that month the previous 2 years. And sometimes, you can go back several years, maybe compare it to a year where it was, doing really, really well and see what's changed in your budget. So you definitely want to compare all of your campuses month over month. This, again, gives you an overarching glance of your lead flow month over month. When I had said at the very beginning of the webinar that, I was able to increase lead flow 33% in 1 year. I mean, I didn't just make that up. I got it from a report. Pull your reports and see if you're improving or if you're not. In this specific report I have up here, you can see that Campus 3 is declining year over year, while the other 2 are growing. So as a marketing director, that tells me, okay, does my budget need to change? Am I putting enough money into Campus 3? Does my message maybe need to be different in that market? Do the people and the students and the demographics look different where Campus 3 is located? So should I maybe doing something a little bit different? Should I be tweaking my ads? And so this is why it's so important not to have like a one-size-fits-all message. Change it up depending on where your campuses are located. And a report, is going to show that. It's going to tell you maybe there's an issue with Campus 3. Okay, the second one I like to pull is your cost per lead by media source. Of course, lower is better. You want a lower cost per lead. We all want to spend less money. But things you want to look at is your cost going up? What has changed? That example I gave at the very beginning. Have your landing pages changed? Has the verbiage on your ads changed? Are you targeting new demographics that maybe you haven't before? If your cost is going up per lead, you really need to pull reports to see what has changed, especially timeframes. I love to see, okay, well, my cost per lead was always at $25. Now it's jumped to $50. What am I doing different? What did I change during that month that it went up to $50? So again, your cost per lead by media source is super important. And then this is lastly, I just wanted to mention this. I had a great conversation with someone who I consider a pro in marketing and admissions. He works with a really giant school chain out there. And so we were talking last week about this, and I just wanted to bring this up when it comes to cost per lead by media source. Guys, you are not always going to know how much a cost per lead is in indirect marketing. You can't necessarily measure it. So that just means if you put up a billboard, if you put up an ad on a bench, you don't know how much that's bringing in. That's indirect marketing. I can't tell you for certain how many leads came in because they saw my ad in a movie theater or a commercial or something like that. It's not as easily measured. There are things you can do to help. You can put tracking numbers and different things like that on it. But at the end of the day, indirect marketing isn't always measured. So if you're an owner harping on your marketing director to tell you exactly what your cost per lead was on every media source, my only advice is to back off a little bit because you don't know when it comes to indirect marketing. If you are a smaller school with a smaller budget, I would focus my money on things that are easily measured, like Facebook and PPC and buying leads from vendors and that sort of thing. Indirect marketing is going to come with a bigger budget, and it'll also come in an area where maybe you need to tell people more about your industry as opposed to your specific school. Okay. The next one I like to look at is your landing page conversion rate. And this is a great report. I didn't even know that you could pull this. This was actually from LeadSquared when I told them what reports I needed. But, this basically means how many leads are ending up on my conversion page, my landing page, and how many of them are actually filling out a form. Around the 10% range is good. If it's below that, you probably need to make some tweaks. But I like to have multiple landing pages. I really do. Sometimes for multiple programs, for different campaigns. If you're running a military campaign, why not have a military focused landing page? If you're having a campaign specific to target, I don't know, like moms or something like that, maybe have a conversion page, a landing page that has a testimonial from a mom on there. And I'm just really coming up with these at the top of my head, but you get the picture. Having a one page, one size fits all is never a good way to do marketing for any industry, for any school. Get creative, do different things, and think outside the box. Another report you want to look at are your website analytics. You want to see how many new visitors are coming. You want to see where they're coming from, meaning how are they landing on your page, the average time that's being spent on your pages, the most visited pages. And then it's also important to know, and I put this up here, desktop versus mobile users. Pretty much in every market, you're going to have more mobile users than desktop. And that's important because you need to know what those landing pages look like on mobile. You need to know what your website looks like on mobile. And the longer I'm in this game, the more I see mobile going up. And I'm sure you guys have, experienced something similar. Another report I love to look at is email open rates. No matter what anyone tells you, email is not dead. It's just not. So this is still how people communicate, especially if they don't want to pick up the phone. We are in an age, guys, of where you can Google things, find out information about anything. And so be in control of that. Don't let people just, Google how much things cost or Google the great things about your program. I love to have email templates built in a CRM. And so when you're sending things from your CRM, you want to know who's opening it and who's clicking on certain things. Here's just an example. So if you're sending someone information about, funding or scholarships or that sort of thing, and you can see that they always open those emails and they're always clicking on it, as an admissions rep, I know that financially, that's probably why they're not showing up for their appointments or they're scared to go to school. So now I have a talk track. I can see they're interested in only financial related emails. So maybe I'm going to send them a text message that says, hey, we have a scholarship, or do you want to come in and see if you qualify, or do you need someone to help set up your FAFSA ID, that sort of thing. So, email open rates are so important, and it's also important that it's somehow linked to your CRM so you can be following each lead and see what their activity is. These are two reports that LeadSquared actually has. They also have an email campaign subject line analysis, which is kind of cool. I've never seen this before, so pretty cool. Okay, next is quarterly and annually reports that I like to pull. And some of these will seem sort of like repeats from the, couple other things I did, but you need to be seeing the big picture of everything on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis. So again, you want to look at the number of leads year over year. You want to compare your trends. If quarter one is behind quarter two, then you need to be like, okay, maybe I need to spend a little bit more money in quarter two to get it up so that we can get our lead flow up, so that we can meet our admissions goals, that sort of thing. This is one thing, guys, that I see a lot, this third point here. I see this a lot with schools, okay? They come up with these crazy random start goals. Hey, we need to start 15 people next month, or we need to start 80 people in August. And that's great. You should have big goals and any goals. I mean, in this industry, admissions reps, they need goals to be held accountable. But you should not be coming up with these numbers at the top of your head. You should be coming up with numbers based on what you're spending in your school and based on what your market looks like. So if you know your admissions reps generally convert at a 15% rate, then how many leads do they need to get to that start goal number? So that's what I mean by saying, don't just come up with random numbers. It's not fair to your admissions reps. And I come from a school background, so I know what that feels like for reps to be harped on for needing to meet a number. So don't be hard on them if you aren't doing your part in investing in your school and trying to get them leads. We don't want our reps standing outside of a Walmart hawking, your school catalog, trying to get anyone to come to your school. Do your part in investing in your school and investing in your marketing and investing in your collateral to help your admissions reps get the leads that they need to convert. Another thing that you need to look at quarterly and annually is your media source. And I do this for a lot of reasons, but I like to find holes in a school. So if your referrals are majorly down this year and they were a lot higher 2 years ago, you could have a culture problem at your school. Why aren't people telling other people about your school? Why aren't your students graduated and saying, hey, you need to go to this great school I just graduated from? We live in a day and age where, that's what people do. They tell their friends everything. They Instagram and Facebook every little detail of their life. So if they like your school, they're going to tell people about it. And if your referrals are going down, that might be a time to look inwardly and say, do we have a teacher problem? Do we have a culture problem? I know that's not popular to say, and that's not always the case. You might not have a culture problem because referrals are going down. But knowing your media source of leads quarterly will give you that overarching view about how they are finding you. I love to do ad analysis of different campaigns. So when I talk about campaigns, I love to do different demographics. Like I said earlier, do one specifically to moms, doing to second career people, doing specifically for military. So you want to see which Facebook and Instagram ads are getting more clicks. You want to see what demographics are more engaging. And you want to see how well those are performing. So if they're not performing well, maybe you need to tweak your message, or maybe you need to open up your mind to a new demographic that maybe you haven't gone after. So I love doing ad analysis of campaigns on a quarterly basis, especially if you came up with a brilliant idea for one demographic. We'll see if it works. Who's clicking on them? Are you getting more leads because of it? After a class start, it's super important to be pulling reports as well. So I like to look at what some CRMs call time to enroll. Here it's called average time taken to win a customer, all the same thing. This basically means how long did it take for a lead who came in your system to become a start. This, guys, is eye-opening for admissions, because I feel like a lot in the school industry, if you're not a hot lead, you're a no lead. Like, if you're not ready to enroll, you are dead to me. And I get that. Like, we love to meet our numbers and we love to try to convert people quickly. But I think what you're going to find when you pull a report like this, like when you actually pull your report with who enrolled and how long have they been in your system, you're going to find they've been in your system sometimes a lot longer than you thought. Sometimes 200 days, sometimes 600 days. It varies. And so this is eye-opening for your admissions teams. They need to know that they can work old leads. Another thing I love to pull at the end of a class start is the media source of starts. We've talked a lot about media. That's how people found you and how they came about to even filling out a form or maybe walking in your door. This is super important because you need to know what works. And so not just what works to get someone to fill out a form, but what works to get someone enrolled. So you definitely want to do this with all of your starts at the end of or at the beginning of a class start. As soon as they enroll, where do they come from? Reports to pull by rep. You want to see their contact activity. This includes how many calls, texts, emails they're making. If I'm an owner or an admissions director or something like that, I would have goals for my team with how many contacts they need to make daily, and not a certain amount of calls versus texts versus emails, but maybe like an overarching number. You need to somehow have 200 contacts a day or something like that. You want to look at their appointments and show rates. And LeadSquared and several other CRMs too. So I just don't want to say LeadSquared, but they will follow, they will show you reporting on the contact activity of your reps. It's important for you as a business owner to see that, to see, if enrollment is down. I mean, maybe it is your admissions reps. Maybe they're not making their calls. Maybe they're not texting at all. You need to know about that. So you need to be pulling reports. And then lastly, a conversion rate. You need to know this, y'all, at the top of your head. So this basically means how many enrollments or how many leads became enrollments. So the average, and this, it probably varies by industry, to be honest with you, but 12 to 15% is sort of average. If you're above that, you're probably a pretty good rep. But that just means for every 100 leads that came in your system, 12 to 15 should be becoming students. And there are things you can do to help your admissions. Like I mentioned earlier, investing in your marketing, investing in your collateral, investing in training, that sort of thing is super important. But you need to know the conversion rate of your reps so that you can properly spend your budget accordingly. You need to know how many leads your rep needs to meet a goal. And that all starts from a conversion rate. And honestly, if I'm an admissions rep and I'm trying to get a raise or something like that, and I'm trying to brag about how great I am, I want to know my conversion rate. I want to know how many people are coming in as leads and how many people I'm converting. That's going to make you look good. And that's something you should be proud of. That's something you should put on your resume and something you should be shouting from the rooftops. This industry needs more admissions reps that are passionate, that love to enroll people. And a lot of admissions reps are very sales-minded, and salespeople live off this type of stuff. It's something they can hang their hat on, so you need to know your conversion rate. Woo, I flew through that. That's my favorite reports to pull. So if you guys have questions, start typing them in. Should you there?
Yep. All right, Jen, thank you for that. I guess we had some amazing insights over there. So now we'll start taking questions. So the first one that we have, I'm not sure, Fred, I guess it's Fred's opinion on this, about looking at your marketing budget, but he says that it's not fair either to marketing to just pull start budgets out of your whole year. Right. So do you want to respond to that?
He said you can't just, I'm sorry, I love Fred. What did he say? You can't just pull budgets out of anywhere?
Yep. It's not just really fair to marketing that you just pull budgets out of your marketing budget, of the whole budget.
Yeah, that is very true. And Fred is someone who I really respect in this industry. And he's right. Just like you can't just come up with random start goals for your team. You can't just say, okay, I'm just going to say every month I'm going to spend $15,000 on PPC. You really need to try things, and you need to try them slowly and in different arenas and see what works for you. When I was a marketing director, we tried new things. And I think that's why our lead flow went up. But you might want to try Snapchat. Personally, I don't think it's great for ads, but if you want to try it and put a small amount of money and see what works, and then slowly build that budget, that to me is how you do budgeting. And have somewhat of a goal. Know how many leads you're trying to get. And I think that's what we do, is we come up with these giant goals for ourselves, and then we just come up with a random number. You need to try different things that work. There's going to be kind of like I forget the exact term, it's sort of like a break-even point when it comes to your PPC. There's going to come a point, especially in everyone's market, where you shouldn't be spending over a certain amount of money. No matter how much money you put into PPC, your cost per lead isn't going to get any lower. So there are things you need to try out. And that's why I love year-over-year trends, because we all know come January, everyone's looking for a fresh start. Everyone has a New Year's resolution. So maybe you want to pump a little bit more into your PPC, or maybe you can just rely on organic search and pump a little less into your PPC. So there's different strategies with different schools, but it's not a one-size-fits-all for budget for sure.
All right. Okay. So we have another question from Ben, who says, which source do you think works the best for lead generation for beauty schools, since you have worked with beauty schools?
I'm going to be blunt. I love Beauty School Directory. You pay per lead with them, and they're the #1 search platform when it comes to searching for beauty schools. So I think every beauty school should be signed up with Beauty Schools Directory. I think you pay like $25 or $30 or something like that per lead. I think everyone should be using somewhat of a PPC budget and a Facebook budget. Other than that, depending on how big your school is, you can do some of those indirect things we talked about. But to me, those are the quickest things to measure. You will always know how much you spent to get a lead with those three. So Beauty Schools Directory, Google Ads, and Facebook are the three things that I tell every beauty school to do.
Okay. We have Trevor asking, what according to you is a good offer on a landing page of a beauty school? A consultation, a school visit, or anything else?
That's a really good question. And I will say I am turned off from landing pages that just push a visit. Here's the thing, guys, and this is what I teach a lot with schools I work at. And let me just put it into your terms. If you're planning on going on a vacation to Greece and you just kind of like, I think I want to go to Greece this summer, and you go to Google, right? Things to do in Greece. How much does airfare cost to go to Greece? Let me check out some Airbnbs. How quick are you to go ahead and book that vacation? Probably not that second. Probably you're so early in your search, you might not even know where Greece is on the map. And I feel like that happens a lot when people Google different schools, is they're so early in their search. Yes, some people are ready to enroll tomorrow and they're a super hot lead and they're going to book an appointment tomorrow. But I think when it comes to PPC and like your Google landing pages, you're so early in the search. And if you are selling the tour, like, boom, come in here and meet me and find out how great the school is and enroll, you could be turning off a lot of people. So I just love something that's very simple, maybe a lead form that has a couple clicks on it, like, hey, I want to know financial information, your schedules, and some program information, where they get to click on multiple things. And then it's just like submit the answers. They just press a button that says send me the info. So it's not that much of a buy-in. And I'm sure there's consultants that out there that will completely disagree with this and say, absolutely no, you want to convert them and get them in the door. And I'm a little more realistic because I've worked in a school, and I've worked in a school recently. And I think sometimes you just want to get the lead interested so that you can open up that dialogue with them. And so for other landing page advice, I love a testimonial on a landing page. I think that's always great. Something super short, to the point, something really quick, and cute about your academy. And make it about them. We also make the mistake of bragging about ourselves. I'm the #1 academy and blah, blah, blah. Like, talk about the lead and how, like, we have flexible schedules for the working mom, or, whatever it is out there that might draw in a lead. Make it about them and make it something that maybe emotionally connects. So again, I feel like I could do a whole webinar and a whole other, I probably could spend hours talking about landing pages, but I hope that answered your question.
All right, I guess it does. Okay, so we have Betty asking, what are the busiest months for enrollments for beauty schools?
This is going to honestly change depending on your market. And I feel like the answer to that question 2 years ago is different today. I think before we used to see a giant trend as soon as people graduated high school. So our summers would be, super busy. And I feel like now millennials and Gen Z, they're living their best life. They want to take the summer off. They want to go travel. And so come fall, they're a lot busier. It's always going to be hard to convert people around, Christmas. I think December naturally is going to be lower. I think January is a great time to, again, do some new campaigns. And let me just make a side note with that. Please be creative and fun and interesting with your campaigns, because I see so many schools doing the same things over and over and over again. And like, new year, new you. And like, I've seen that since I was born. Like, come up with something that would draw people in, something that you would click. Like, let's get interesting and creative again for 2019 and draw people in with, witty campaigns. Maybe it's a meme, maybe it's just like a stat, something exciting and different. But that's a great question. I think what you need to do is look at your year-over-year trends, see what's historically worked for you guys in the past, and when you seem to be busier with your lead flow, and maybe on some of those slower months, pump a little bit more into PPC and see if you can even them out.
All right. Okay, so we have Steph asking, is there a way to measure referral leads? How do I know that my referral leads are going up?
There is a way, but your referral leads has to be measured by the rep. And so when you have a CRM, you should have different medias. So like your Google ads, your Facebook, any sort of online leads you have, it should automatically be tagged in the back end with your CRM, so you know exactly how they came in. But if it's a referral lead, your rep needs to be putting that in your CRM. They need to be tracking that. And so I also love to have a notes section in a CRM, because I think what you're also going to find when your rep meets with your Facebook lead, your PPC lead, is that it kind of also was a referral. Most of them sit down and they're like, oh, how did you hear about our academy? When you know they came in through a Facebook lead. And that girl will say, oh, my friend went here last year. And so make a note of that. This is just, again, I think a lot of this reporting is all about making sure you're tracking things. You need to make sure your admissions rep is trained to track certain things. And so I think that's a great question. And a lot of people aren't looking at their referrals. But like I said earlier, your referral report to me is the number one indicator of a bigger problem within your school.
All right. So we have another one from Yolanda, and I guess this is for LeadSquared. Can we create landing pages in LeadSquared without coding? So I guess I'll take that question, Jen.
Yeah, this is a great question.
All right. So to answer it, yes, absolutely. You can create landing pages on LeadSquared. You don't need any sort of coding, be it with landing pages or your email templates. We have visual drag and drop designers, and they are as easy as probably something like Facebook to use. So you can use those designers and create some amazing landing pages. At the same time, you have some templates which are available by default, which our own marketing team keeps on updating it, right? So you can use hints from that as well. So we have Rick asking, what has your experience been in terms of best media to connect with prospective students? Where do you get the most responses from?
Your highest conversion will always be referrals. If someone knows someone who went to your school, referrals will constantly be your highest conversion. You look at like I talked about BD Schools directory, and there's different things out there where you can buy leads from. That's going to be lower. They still convert, but it's going to be lower. PPC, it's going to be a lower conversion, but you're going to have to work them harder. So like I said, a lot of them are at the beginning of their search. So they're going to take sometimes 200 days to convert. If you're looking for super quick, like I need more leads and like who's going to convert the quickest, it's always going to be your referrals. If you know someone who went to your school, and there's different things you can do in your market to increase your referrals. Building relationships with, if you're a beauty school, building relationships with salons and spas in your area is a great way to do that. Having an alumni association, something where you have a regular pipeline of people referring your school to their clients and that sort of thing is great. But that to me is the number one.
Okay. All right. So I have one more question. So what was your cost per lead for your beauty school, and what was the percentage of quality leads?
I don't want to share the private information about cost per lead with the school I worked with, especially because I don't work there anymore, and I would hate to piss anyone off. You know, I have a great relationship with them still, but I will say it changed. It changed depending on how much we spent. So the more money we spent, the higher our CPL went, and that to me I think is kind of a normal thing. I don't know. I feel like if you can get your cost per lead around 60 on Facebook, around 30 to 40 on PPC, you're doing a decent job. It's going to change if your budget is a lot lower. So you can call me directly and we can talk about that.
All right. So I guess that's all for questions. If anyone else has any question, please feel free to type it in the question section. We'll wait for probably 10-15 seconds, and then probably we'll put an end to this.
Perfect. And again, I have my information up here. If you guys want to talk more about this, connect with me on LinkedIn. I consult regularly with schools around the country. So I love talking marketing. I'm happy to, give you guys some advice and that sort of thing. And hopefully with LeadSquared, we can do more webinars like this in the future. So I personally wanted to thank all of you guys for attending.
Absolutely, on the more webinars with LeadSquared.
Great.
All right. Okay, I guess we don't have any more questions. So I guess that would be all. All right. So everyone, thank you so much for joining the webinar today. It was great. And Jen, thank you so much. We really appreciate all the information. All right.
All
Okay,
right, have a
so all
great
of you will be
day.
getting, all right, you too. All of you will be getting the recording along with Jen's presentation and a summary of this webinar on your emails. If you have any questions or anything of that sort, feel free to reach out to Jen on their ID, on her ID. At the same time, you can reach out to LeadSquared as well at shop@leadsquared.com, and we'll be happy to help. Have a good day, folks. Bye-bye. Take care.